What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So a couple of days ago, I made a video reminiscing about my worst takes that I have ever made on TikTok. We reacted to that because the TikTok ban was looming. TikTok went dark last night in the United States. Now apparently it's in the process of getting revived, and Donald Trump is going to sign some type of extension, 90-day extension. Don't know what's going to happen long term, but it seems like in the intermediate, we're going to get the app back. But I thought, considering we did the reaction to the worst takes, we'd be positive towards me today instead of dumping on me. We're going to go through the best. And again, shout out Matt Magani, former podcast co-host, for cutting up these clips so I can kind of blind react to it. I know the first thing that we're going to be going through. But yeah, let's get into it. Across my 4 years on TikTok, I guess here are some of my things that I actually got right. I'm actually broken clocks right twice a day. So let's get into it. And it's only fitting we start after putting him in my top 10. Go watch that video, my updated top 10 players in the NHL. We start with some Jack Hughes glaze. I think that this was like in 2021, again, 45-point pace after a disastrous rookie season, and people were pretty low on him. So yeah, let's see how I was correct.
Comments like this about Jack Hughes. So let me explain why I think he's primed for a breakout 70-plus point season, and why I think he'll eventually be a top 5 center.
Next season, the following season, he would have 56 points in 49 games. Still not a top 5 center. Who do I have? McDavid, McKinnon, Matthews, Draisaitl, Barkov ahead of him. So still not top 5 quite yet, but I think we can agree, considering Draisaitl, Barkov, McKinnon are like 5 to 6 years older than him, probably going to end up a top 5 center at some point.
The man has ridiculously good underlying.
The J Rush. Yeah, Jack Hughes was an analytical darling. He just couldn't finish for jack shit early on, especially his rookie year. He could not buy a goal, and the Devils still stunk.
To show that he's a great two-way center. As you can see, he was absolutely brutal his rookie year, but I
you can't really see the finishing line, but like it was bottom 1% as well as defensively. He was like 160 pounds soaking wet his rookie year, so kind of no shit he got exposed.
In fact, he wasn't really ready for the NHL, only standing at
2% finishing.
11 and like 165 pounds soaking wet. But then after almost a 9-month offseason due to COVID, he was able to adjust the speed of play, put on almost 15 pounds of muscle, and as a result, he went
That's glazing
from
right
one
there.
of the worst defenders to one of the best, and also improved his offense. But now he's one of the best players in the NHL.
The zone that I always talk about, him in transition, man, even early on in his career. Now he's like straight up a top 3 guy in transition in the NHL. Even back then, he was
in and
elite.
out of his zone and leads the NHL in takeaways. As for why he doesn't have elite point production, it's mainly because the Devils are still a young, growing team, and he plays with guys.
Yeah, like Bratt hadn't broke out. They obviously didn't have Timo Meier, Nico Hischier. He wasn't playing with him. They had not much back then.
Like Sharon Govich and Kuka Konen. I expect the Devils to make some big offseason moves to improve the team. One of which that I want to see is if the Buffalo Sabres are thinking about blowing it up, maybe bringing Sam Reinhart.
That would have been crazy. Obviously, Reinhart went to Florida where he became an absolute stud.
But regardless, I think Jack Hughes is a 60 to 70 point guy next year. It wouldn't shock me if he scored 80 plus, and I think he's a future NHL star.
He got hurt, but 56 and 49 is like 90-point pace.
What do you guys think?
48 hours after the loss, I've had time to process it.
This was after the Tampa Bay loss. Nostradamus here saying that they were going to fall off, I guess.
And I'm kind of scared shitless about the Islanders' future. I don't want to call this offseason make or break for the team, but it's kind of make or break. Much like last offseason, we have 2 massive...
Pretty sure they swung and missed on Landeskog this offseason, which... I mean, Landeskog was great the following season, but then would get hurt.
Free agents that we need to sign and not a lot of cap space to do it. Up first, Adam Pelech, who's making a measly $1.6 million.
Yeah, they had like Pelech and Polak locked up at like nothing in the 2020 and 2021 seasons.
He's already 26 years old and has established himself as a top...
He got more than that, 8 years too.
...defenseman in the league. He's not going to take a bridge deal. And then Anthony Beauvillier, who's making $2.1 million, is due for a massive raise. He's only 24, so maybe he takes a bridge deal, but he already...
I think it was like $4.1 million.
Took one, so I wouldn't be surprised if he said no. If we lose one of these guys like we lost Devontae's last offseason...
Devontae's. Yeah, we still hadn't really felt the Devontae's impact, but the following season we would.
I may kill myself. I have to say, you got to let Casey Cizikas walk this offseason and try...
Smart to keep Palmieri. They probably should have let Cizikas walk.
To trade, say, Cal Clutterbuck, Ledyard,
but he didn't really make a lot, so it's fine.
Komarov's contract to Seattle. Sorokin also needs a new deal, but that really shouldn't be too much. If I'm being honest, the only way I can see...
Yeah, this really broke them. Dobson obviously is a top pair offensive defenseman. I'm not sure he's a true number 1. Wallstrom busting really hurt this team from 2022 on. Really, really hurt them in terms of him basically being nothing.
This team win a cup is if Dobson and Wallstrom develop into stud. Okay, so for like the past year...
Oh, this one was controversial. This was in like January of 2022 when he was still the no doubt consensus guy and number 1 guy. I didn't see it. I think I'll talk about it. Like he came out of the gates firing, and I think I'm going to reference that in the OHL at like 15 years old. and then just like kind of plateaued a little bit. He was just physically mature for his age, but people didn't want to hear it.
Plus, we have been told by the hockey media that this guy right here, Shane Wright, he is the consensus number one pick, franchise-changing type player. And I gotta say, based on what I've seen in the stats that he put up this year, I completely disagree with this. I think he's very overrated.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's just the Canadian media like anointed this kid as Bedard was the following season, but like another franchise level guy like Lafreniere, like not Connor McDavid quite, but you got what I mean. Like he got deemed at 15 years old and then just never really backed it up. But the media kept on pushing it.
He'll still be a fantastic NHL player, but I think
he still can be a good NHL player. He's playing pretty solid this season with the Seattle Kraken, but. Yeah, let's keep it going.
I think we need to dial back the hype, and let me explain why. This year, he is just not producing on an elite level. On his own OHL team, he is only 5th in points.
That was concerning.
He's only 25th in the entire OHL. When you compare it to the last 12 players to go top 10 in the NHL.
Look at this, man. 1.25. Barrett Hayden is like the only guy that he's ahead of.
Draft that played in the OHL before they were drafted. The only players
I
he's
just talking about that.
Barrett Hayden and Pavel Zacha. I mean, you even look at the 2020 draft, and all these guys are substantially producing more than him right now. And the common counter argument I get to this is, oh, he's such a great defensive two-way player, and don't get me wrong, plus minus is
he was viewed like some people like gave him like Patrice Bergeron comps or something like that.
Not that good of a stat, but how is this guy a 0? Because again, you compare it to the other top 10 picks.
Plus 69 from Marco Rossi. He was a monster with the Ottawa 67s.
Played in the OHL, and they absolutely lapped them. And mind you, Shane Wright's on a team that's 17-8-3. Okay, so with free agency stuff.
Yeah, Shane Wright. I think that one's panning out correct. I had Logan Cooley as my number 1 prospect. I had Slavkovsky number 2, and then Shane Wright number 3, and I got called crazy. This one isn't that great of a take. I think it's just like kind of common sense. But yeah, as you can see, Darcy Kemper, and that's Jack Campbell. Let's see what I had to say.
Starting soon, and a couple notable goalies on the market like Darcy Kemper and Jack Campbell. I think it's time for my annual reminder to teams and fans everywhere that paying a goalie past the age of like 29 to anything over like a 3
unless they're like a Connor Hellebuyck, like franchise guy. I'm talking like fringe guys in this scenario.
Is a horrible idea. Most goalies heavily regress once they get into their early 30s. So if one of these guys gets like a 4 or 5 year deal, it's probably
both got 5-year deals. 5 years, $5 million for Campbell. 5 years, 5 point. Darcy Kemper's playing better now, but at the time, his second year was such a disaster, and they had to move him off for PLD, who's also playing great right now. I've talked about that before, but yeah.
Be a train wreck. And the historical data backs this up. Let's look at the past 3 years. Last year, Philip Grubauer.
Yeah. Jack Campbell's actually was worse than this because he barely played, but
per dollar deal, and it's already looking.
It's crazy. People gave out that kind of money after seeing what happened to Grubauer.
One of the worst contracts in the league. Petr Mrazek, it was only a 3-year deal worth like $3.8 million per year, but they've already had to dump him in a trade where they lost draft position. 2 years ago, Jacob Markstrom signed.
Markstrom one actually hasn't been that bad, but he was pretty inconsistent for Calgary.
6 at 30 years old, and while this one is probably the best case scenario, he had one May year and one good year. I still don't like how this is going to age. In that same offseason,
Anton Khudobin. I forget what his deal was, but yeah, he was out of the NHL within a year of it or something crazy like that.
Anton Khudobin got 4 years, $4 million per, and he's already out of the league. Okay, so on Monday night, John
Tavares defense. This, I guess, if we're going in chronological order, which I think this video is, I guess this was before the 2022-2023 season.
Tavares scored his 900th
900th point. Yeah, so this is probably start of 2023.
Throw that accomplishment up on my Instagram story and ask the question, is John Tavares going to be a Hall of Famer? And to that, 60% of you guys said no. So I'm about to do something I thought I would never do again, and that is defend John Tavares, because I think it is a no doubt easy yes. Because I don't think people realize how impressive it is that.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to finish, I'll probably talk about it, but he's going to finish probably with like 1,300 career points.
And he already has 900 career points, and I don't think people remember how good John Tavares was in his prime. He literally turned 32 last month in September, and he already has 900 career points. For reference, Corey Perry, who is 5 years older.
Corey Perry got a heart, though, but
only has 860 career points. And just to show you guys, I drew up this worst case projection.
And obviously this season he's at like point per game. So this was worst case, and this was him finishing with 1,145 points. He's at like 1,080, I think, right now, and he's still a point per game. He's probably gonna finish maybe even with like 1,350, man. That'll be like 40th all time, or maybe even higher.
For Tavares, this is if he ages horribly.
This is out of the league at 36. At this point, I think we can agree Tavares is going to play till 38 probably,
And even in this projection,
especially if he ain't got a cup.
he has almost 1,150 points. Like, I usually set the standards for a Hall of Fame forward at 1,000 career points. Literally, in his worst-case scenario,
I think the Calgary...
Oh, that cut out of nowhere. But yeah, John Tavares, 2-time Hart finalist, going to have all the longevity stats. Yes, he might not have the personal winning of some other guys, but I think when you pack on the prime of being like a top 10 player for about half a decade with that longevity, dude's going to be a Hall of Famer pretty easily. This, I guess, was after Johnny Gaudreau got signed away, or not left in free agency. What am I saying? But yeah, I was very Flames. Like after that happened, I was very like Flames got to blow it the hell up. So let's see what I say.
Flames should blow it up. I'm talking full Arizona. Trade anything of value and commit to a rebuild. They're the most average team in the league. If they don't do anything drastic like this, there should be a mediocre 90-point team for the next 5 years. Their forward core is average. Their defensive core is average to below average.
I did not like the Flames back in the day.
Slightly above average in net. So what's the best case scenario for this team?
Yeah, this was after. This was even before Tkachuk got traded.
Not better than the Oilers, Canucks. They're not getting a Pacific Division playoff spot, so they're just going to sweat by.
I don't know why the Canucks in there. They weren't
Vegas
that good
or
back
Colorado.
Okay,
there. Yeah, with the Flames, I was ahead of the curve. Once they, obviously, I didn't. Which we're going to talk about right now. Like the Huberdeau deal in the moment was pretty solid, but I still didn't think, and why I think the Flames or the Florida Panthers won. I thought the Flames just should have went down the path of a rebuild. They ended up not doing that. They ended up going for Jonathan Huberdeau and Mackenzie Weegar, signing Nazem Kadri, and now they're looking like back-to-back. Well, the last 3 seasons, it's going to be like a 90-point season this year, 82-point season last year, and then 2 years ago, they were like a 90-point team that missed the playoffs. Correct.
breaking news, Matthew Tkachuk has just been traded for Jonathan Huberdeau, Weegar, a prospect and a pick. This might be the biggest deal I have ever seen in my life, and you know I'm going to have a controversial take, and that is Florida wins this deal. They get the better, and they benefit more from this than Calgary.
Yeah, dude, this was controversial because, again, at the time, Huberdeau was coming off a 115-point season. Weegar was widely regarded as a top 15 defenseman, but as I'm going to dive into it, they got a player that is far younger, that was cost-controlled at 9.5. Meanwhile, they were going to have to pay Weegar and Huberdeau.
I know people are going to think I'm absolutely crazy. Huberdeau is probably better than Tkachuk right now. Weegar is a borderline top 15 defenseman,
I just said
but
that.
I still like it for Florida more. And you want to know why that is? Jonathan Huberdeau is going to be 30 years old when he's an unrestricted free agent next season. Mackenzie Weegar is going to be 29 years old, and they're going to need 7-8-year deals. Florida wants...
Weegar deal is looking very good, $6.25 million, but Huberdeau, worst in the entire NHL, probably.
To keep these two guys next summer, they would have had to pay them for way too long and probably for way too much. It would have essentially locked the Panthers.
That's why in my worst takes, as we talked about before, I thought that that was their best chance at the Stanley Cup because they were going to have to pay these guys.
Into like a
but they
2
traded.
to 3 year thing, because once Weegar and Huberdeau started regressing, those contracts were going to kill them. Instead, you get a player like Matthew Tkachuk, 24 years old, entering his prime.
100-point season.
On a pretty team-friendly extension at 8 years, $9.5 million. Is Florida a worse team after this deal? Yes.
The crazy thing is, like, yeah, you thought, even though I thought Florida won this, the next year, Huberdeau was still only making 5.9. Weegar was making like 3.3. I thought Calgary might benefit the first year, but then the rest beyond that, once those guys get paid, literally in the first year, Florida won that deal so massively from Matthew Tkachuk being a 109-point Hart finalist, carried them offensively in the playoffs.
100%. I personally think Matthew Tkachuk is as good as Huberdeau, but losing a guy like Mackenzie Weegar is huge.
Look at that, Huberdeau is better. Matthew Tkachuk. Even me being pro-Florida in this, I still thought that they were on the same tier.
They take a hit next year, no doubt. In 4 years, when Tkachuk is still in his prime and Huberdeau and Weegar
What's going on right now?
Fall off, we're not going to think the same way. Also, next offseason, Florida's going to have like $6 to $7 million that they expected to use on Huberdeau and Weegar to spend on another player next
As a result, they were able to extend a guy like Gustav Forsling or something like that.
I know people are going to hate this for Florida, but you got to think long-term. And also, this current Panthers team, they just got tossed around.
That's the other thing. They had like 2 playoff runs, unsuccessful, and Bill Zito said, fuck it, we're changing things up. Meanwhile, teams like the Toronto Maple Leafs just keep on running back the same core. The ballsiness on this was so impressive.
By the Lightning, I love kind of not blowing it up, but going younger and going bold. If you're Calgary, replacing Gaudreau and Tkachuk with Huberdeau and Weegar, that's a straight-up downgrade, and you get older. So it's definitely a good move for them right now, but I still don't think they're close to winning a championship. And this move does not move the needle. But anyway, let me know in the comments, do you think this was a massive dub for Florida? Was this a massive dub for Calgary? I know people are gonna hate my take on this, but I'm standing by it. Okay, so last year when I made my Calder prediction,
Okay, Beniers winning the Calder. This was before the season. He was like one of the favorites. I'm not going to act like this was some plus 2,000 long shot, but yeah.
It wasn't a clear, obvious choice that I was extremely confident in. I ended up picking Trevor Zegras. He did pretty good. He came in second. But this year, I am extremely confident in Matty Beniers, and I would genuinely be shocked if he doesn't win it. By me saying I'm confident he's going to win the Calder doesn't mean I think he's going to be the best player in this rookie class career-wise. I just think he has by far the best.
He's in a great situation in Seattle.
opportunity in his
And he finished like when he came out of college, he finished with like 9 points in 10 games. Something ridiculous.
rookie year. Okay, so in the midst of the chaos,
Yeah, he ended up winning the Calder pretty easily with 57 points, and Seattle made the playoffs that year. It was a crazy rookie year defensively, especially his numbers were nuts. Kyle Dubas made a big mistake trading Rasmus Sand. Wasn't this Gustafsson in a first? And did that first turn into Easton Cowan? So maybe it could end up working out for the Toronto Maple Leafs after that World Juniors. I don't know, but Sandin's been killing it. Let's see what I'd say.
that's the Patrick Kane trade. The Toronto Maple Leafs just made a massive trade themselves, trading away Rasmus Sandin to the Washington Capitals. And I kind of think Dubas got fleeced on this. Full details is the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, Gustafsson was having a monster season. Wasn't that good for Toronto in the
traded
playoffs.
away Rasmus
They won a round, though, that year, right?
Sandin for Eric Gustafsson in Boston's first-round pick. For those of you guys unfamiliar on how the first-round draft order is determined, whoever wins the President's Trophy, their pick cannot be better than 28th overall. Pick aside, I don't think there's
Ended up being Easton
that
Cowan.
much difference between a Rasmus Sandin and an Eric Gustafsson, and when you consider Sandin's age and contract, it is not that good of a deal. Because although Sandin has been in a pretty sheltered third-pairing role,
Monster
he has
analytically.
been fantastic in it his first 2 years in Toronto. And going back to that contract, he is only making $1.4 million this year and
Yeah, this was great by Washington, dude. They got a 22-year-old stud, and now he's locked up on like a $4.5 million contract for the next 5 seasons. And his analytics have been awesome this year, and he's like going at like 35-point pace. Great. Washington's like mini retool that they have had.
next year and is still a restricted free agent. He is a 22-year-old, cost-controlled, already very good third-pairing guy. Could probably play second pair. Okay, so we got some late-night...
Ooh, Jake Sanderson up next. Yeah, Rasmus Sandin. Again, Easton Cowan could turn into something, but I still really love that for Washington and Rasmus Sandin. I was never really that high on Timothy Liljegren, who also had very good underlying numbers, but Rasmus Sandin, I wasn't a big fan of that move. Sanderson, this was another very controversial one when he got paid, 8 years, $8.05 million after one rookie season where he had like 33 points in 79 games or something like that, played like 21 minutes a night. People hated this. People thought the Senators were absolutely out of their mind. Let's see what I had to say, because I think we could agree, even if you're not that high on Jake Sanderson at $8 million from age 22 to like 29, 30, it's looking pretty good.
Ottawa. Jake Sanderson has re-signed with the Ottawa Senators. 8 years, $8.05 million. And basically all of hockey social media is counting on this deal, saying that it's horrible, but I really like it.
Of course. By fucking smug ass.
Definitely. It definitely is. Jake Sanderson's only 21 right now. Do I think he's going to be worth $8 million in the first year of this deal in 2024? Probably not, but
He was probably a $6.57 million defenseman last year.
I do think it's going to be a good long-term deal. Jake Sanderson, this most recent year in his rookie year at only age 20,
Yeah, he was a beast both ways.
Very solid results in a pretty big role. He was playing like 22 minutes a night, and he's only going to get...
Yeah, he was on the Senators. Senators weren't that good. Not like, I don't believe he was on the top power play back then. The writing was on the wall for a breakout.
Even if he doesn't improve anymore, he's a very good second-pair guy, probably worth 5 to 5.5.
It's pretty funny because in the worst videos, I said that they overpaid for Tkachuk. Like my tone has completely shifted on giving these guys big time extensions once they show you something. If your first round lottery pick is balling out, probably going to turn into a stud, probably pay him now instead of bridge him.
$1 and he's going to get better because he was only 20 years old. I genuinely think for Jake Sanderson, the best case scenario based on what we saw, which was very encouraging, is for him to eventually be a top 15, maybe top 10. I don't think...
Yeah, I think he can be like a Miro Heiskanen light, if that makes sense. 11 through 17 in the NHL. Will he get to top 10? We'll definitely see. That is possible, but at $8 million, man, when you're seeing other guys, Brock Faber getting 8, Brock Faber's also very good, but Brock Faber getting 8.5 after one season. Sanderson's deal looks very good.
But an elite #1
and this year, he's going for like 45, 50-point pace. The offense has picked up.
defenseman, and honestly, worst case is probably a solid top pair guy, 45 to 50 points. I think the main disconnect with this kind of deal and with like the Austin Matthews one that was most recently signed is, again, we are entering a period where the salary cap is
rising, man.
3-4 million.
This was like right before the cap. I think the next offseason, the cap finally jumped, and people started to realize, oh, might look like a big deal in 3 to 4 years. It ain't gonna be shit.
Yes, if this deal started literally today, he's being paid like a low-end #1 defenseman, but in like 3 to 4 years, this is what you're gonna pay a #2.
Philip Hronik got 7.5s, or like maybe even 7.25. But yeah, a lot of guys are getting paid.
Even a high-end #3.
What is
The Bo Horvat trade. I hated this. Oh, I was shocked. I mean, I guess this isn't that good of a take. Most people hated it. But even as an Islanders fan, I saw no positives. I love Bo Horvat. I love watching him play, but this was a little...
I'm shook. I had to triple check, go to 19 different reporters to make sure that this was actually legit and actually just happened. My New York Islanders have traded Anthony Beauvillier, Atu Ratu, and a first-round pick for Bo Horvat. This is a kind of trade that will send us into a 5-year bottom barrel of the league level.
That's what's happening right now. I mean, we made the playoffs twice with them, but didn't come remotely close to even beating Carolina.
Bo Horvat is having a great year, but
yeah, he was shooting like 25%. He had like 37 goals that year.
This is a guy that is a career 55 to 60 point center, and
that's kind of what he is right now.
Gave up our best prospect in a first.
Atu Ratu not really panning into anything special. That first round pick ended up being Axel Sandin Palika, so that got flipped into Phil Hronik. That was in the threads from the two best and worst, because I hated the Phil Hronik deal. Yeah, I would have much rather had. Imagine we had ASP in Klarsman in our system right now.
That will probably be top 15 minimum. Don't get me wrong, Beauvillier for Horvat.
Yeah, dude, that's the craziest part. We obviously made the playoffs eventually, but at the time we were out of it by a little bit. God damn,
make us a better team. I still don't think we make the playoffs.
We made the playoffs, so I guess that was a bad take.
And even if we make the playoffs in one of the wild card spots, we will get our teeth kicked in by either Carolina or Boston.
Carolina beat us in 5 games.
This man has ruined this team over the past 18 months. I have never seen anything like this. The last 2
yeah, he went nuclear all in.
Trading the 13th overall pick for a mid-second pair defenseman, probably a third pair on any decent good team, and then now this best prospect, probably another lottery pick, as well as a decent young player for Bo Horvat. What's the plan? Are we locking up Bo Horvat for 7 years, 7.5?
You fucking wish, man. Like 3 days later, he gave him an 8 by 8.5
$8.5 and just going to be this 80-point team for the next decade.
Yeah, probably.
This morning we found out that
Mike Babcock. I hated this so much, and some old heads were like, "Oh, he'd be good for this team. Get him into shape."
Heavily speculated that Mike Babcock is going to be the next head coach of the Columbus Blue Jackets, and this is a horrible hire if it happens. I say this not even because I think Mike Babcock is this absolutely horrendous coach.
I mean, he was solid on the Leafs.
I think he's past his coaching prime. It just, the fit makes no sense. Columbus Blue Jackets have such a good young core right now, especially after they make that 3rd overall pick, that I don't think you hire Mike Babcock to deal with that young core. We saw in Toronto, he is a hard ass that players do not really.
Mitch Marner despised him, made him like freaking cry at 21 years old or something like that.
Usually end up resenting. You do not want that with your 22 and under players. Not even their young guys. Even a guy like Patrick Laine, we've seen him when he gets these.
Patrick Laine eventually. I mean, he didn't interact with Babcock much, but he swiftly wanted out within a year later.
Hate hockey.
Okay, so today on my Instagram, I dropped a list giving my top 8 most mid teams in the NHL, both now and in the future. And I was genuinely shocked at how many people said the Minnesota Wild.
Crazy that people like coming into this season didn't like Minnesota both this season. I guess I get you didn't have them in the playoffs this year, but like people were lumping them in with my New York Islanders basically.
Should have been on that list and should have been like top 4 because I think they have one of the best 10-year trajectories in the entire NHL.
Yeah, dude, They had one bad year because in their first 20 games, I've said it 9,000 times, they got like 880 goaltending, and then Jared Spurgeon got hurt, and Kirill Kaprizov was slow to start in the first half of the season, and everybody just threw them to the side as an irrelevant team in the Western Conference. It was ridiculous. I'm not going to act like I had them top 3 in the Western Conference this year. They're probably not going to finish top 3 because of all their injuries, but like, I thought they're going to be a playoff team this year, and then next year just really take a step, and people thought it was crazy.
Because first off, they have an amazing prospect pool, especially after getting Zeev Boyum at 12
Now they got Juracek as well.
overall somehow.
Scored a goal last night.
They now have Yurov, Ogren, Height, Wallstead, and Boyum.
They got everything covered, man. Like 3. This isn't even. They have another forward that I'm forgetting his name that is also a stud. But they have like 3 good forwards. Oh, no. They have the 3 forwards listed. Zeev Boyum is just not listed there. They got everything covered. Forward, defenseman, goalie.
They have a very good prospect pool, and then you look at their 3 best forwards. They're still pretty young, Boldy especially, and they're locked up. Joel Eriksson has 5 years left at $5.25 million. Boldy 6
Crazy
years,
deals.
7. Kaprizov only has 2 years and $9 million. That's an absolute steal the next 2 years. On top of, he's down here, but Marco Rossi was very good in his rookie year.
It'd be interesting to see. Marco Rossi's in trade rumors nonstop. They should not trade
He's
him.
only going to get better. Probably going to be like a 30 and 30 guy one day. The defense core, I understand there's a little bit concerned because Brodin and Spurgeon are getting up there in age, but Faber's already like a #1 defenseman, and Boyum is eventually going to be ready.
Now they locked up Faber.
2 to 3 years. Goaltending is not ideal. I think
It is ideal now. Philip Gustafson's a 26-year-old top 5 goalie in the entire, maybe top 2 this season.
Gustafson is
So that was like maybe my one concern, and that has been proven
better this
stud.
season, but again, in terms of their future, they have arguably the best goalie prospect
Wallsted's been a little bit concerning this year, though.
in hockey with Jesper Wallstedt. Arguably, most importantly, that people are forgetting.
Like, dude, they have $12 million this season to spend, or this
Past 2
offseason.
seasons, they have been dealing with $14 million.
Like, the fact that they made the playoffs in 2023, 2022 with that dead cap is absolutely insane.
Dead cap from Ryan Suter and Zach Parise. That mostly comes off the book next season. They already have a lot of their impact guys on fantastic deals. When you give this team $14 million to work
They are not Minnesota. I would bet on Minnesota winning a cup in the next
with
decade.
this summer, they are yet again going to be a highly competitive team. Okay, so after just 88 career
I think
NHL
this is the last one. Dylan Guenther. This is another extension that went down, and people were like, what the hell? He's only played 88 games.
Dylan Guenther just got a massive bag at 8 years, slightly above $7 million, and I absolutely love this deal for you.
Yeah, another guy that wasn't proven. People thought, oh, no, you can't give him that much money.
I understand that he doesn't have the longest NHL track record held
Beast.
as a 2021 draftee, but he has dominated and progressed.
Look at that, man. 45 goals, 46 assists, 91 points. Goes to the NHL right out of the gate. 15 points, 33. Dominates the WHL, dominates the AHL, dominates the NHL. And people are like, that's too much. He's former 9th overall pick. Like, best goal scorer in that draft, in my opinion.
Every single level thus far. 2023, he
I had him like number 4 and number 5.
was pretty solid at the NHL level with 15 points in 33 games. Then he starts last year in the AHL, was point per game. And then in the NHL, he put up 33 goals.
And people thought, oh, that's a fluke. That's a fluke. No.
32 assist pace in 45 games, again, at like 21 years old. So based on the fact that he was around 33 and 33 last season, I see
What's he doing this year in a full season? He's going to be around 35 and 35, I think,
no
as of
reason
right
why
now.
he can't do that in a full season next year and only improve on that to eventually become a 40 and 40 guy, considering
Him and Logan Cooley, they got to lock up Logan Cooley somehow on an equally cheap deal because these guys, Cooley's going to put up 90 points. Gunther's going to be putting up 45 goals. $7.14 million.
fact, I also
It's
think
ridiculous.
Logan Cooley's going to turn into a franchise center. So is there some risk to this? Definitely. Maybe it was a little bit of a flash in the pan.
Was
but
not.
If they hit on this, considering Utah has so much cap space,
Mm-hmm.
you might as well take a risk on this instead of playing it out this season. If he did fully break out, then this number would have been north of $8 million.
Yeah, if he was RFA, pending RFA right now, he'd be getting $8 million. No doubt. He'd be getting an 8x8 after back-to-back seasons of 30 and 30 kind of pace. Maybe even an 8x8.5.
If he went for 35 and 35. Slightly above $7 million is just not that much in the NHL now.
Second line money. It's literally going to be second line
Nowadays,
money.
It's basically going to be second line.
Oh,
money.
I didn't see this before.
Years of 22 and 29.
This one is pretty fresh. This is like 4 months ago.
Steal runs. A team like the New Jersey Devils that is tight on salary cap space, they got to bridge a guy like Dawson Mercer. And I
Probably a good thing that they bridged Mercer.
think
He's
it's a
not
very
been that
good
good.
bridge deal for a guy like Dylan Guenther. He could
Pay
easily
him.
be a $9 to $10 million player in 3 to 4 years.
All right, that's it. Let me know in the comments. This was a long one, almost 30 minutes. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about these takes? Hopefully we'll be up and running on TikTok yet again, and there's some kind of resolution in terms of that app not getting banned. But yeah, comment, what do you think? Do you have any other takes that you remember from my TikTok days that aged horrendously or great? I would definitely love to hear them, and I'll be seeing the next one. Peace.